Hey guys, my name is Simpzy. How you all doing? Welcome to the start of a brand new campaign series here today on the channel. We're back on Troy, A Total War Saga. We're going to be playing as Aeneas here today. So, if you like the sound of that, feel free to leave the video a like, subscribe if you're new around here with notifications on. Let me know in the comments feedback and suggestions for the series and where you would like me to expand and conquer. Gotta say a huge thank you to the Creative Assembly for sending me a free early access code of Troy and making this Let's Play possible. So a huge thank you to them and their community team. Troy will be available to the general public for free on the 13th of August for 24 hours. So go and snatch it up while you can. Alrighty. Let's get stuck into playing as Aeneas. Aeneas is a really cool and interesting character. The godfather, the father of Rome, I like to call him. So he's a Trojan. I had a choice between Hector, Paris, or Sarpedon. We could always come back to that, but I wanted to play as Aeneas just due to his really cool and interesting backstory. So he seems to have some sort of elk. He's a green-looking faction there. He also looks eerily a little bit Roman, maybe even like some of the early Romans there. I see the similarities, CA. So Aeneas, Lord of Dardania, normal starting, veteran of course. That's been changed now in Troy. Easy, normal, hard. It's very hard has gone to veteran nowadays. Particularly don't like legendary, just due to some of the features with it. It's kind of similar. The same dislikes I have for legendary difficulty on Troy can be sort of traced back to Warhammer 2, I guess. Okay, so we're going to be playing as Aeneas. So we'll go through his faction traits, and also this is my second playthrough with Troy. We're not going to be doing a blind Let's Play, of course, because at the time of recording, I've just taken Troy with Achilles. I'm going to take a break for that campaign. We haven't hit the final cutscene just yet, because we need to get rid of Hector, but if you want to go check out my Achilles campaign, if you want to see how the Danans and the Achaeans work. So let's go through Aeneas. So he's got some cool and interesting things which are quite unique to him. So we've got Divine Omens, spend resources in a sacrifice to be given missions by the gods to get divine favour. Aeneas can talk to the dead, which is quite cool. His playstyle, Aeneas' roster is infantry based with a big variety of decent cheap units which can be used in human wave attacks before the heavy infantry engage. I don't know how good that's going to be overly on the campaign map, because we still have to deal with supply lines. So the more armies you have early on, the more of a disadvantage you have. So in the late game, it might be alright having that cannon fodder. But yeah, so especially with units, heroes, and basically temples and gods and stuff, it's very hard for I've sort of seen so far to make a sort of top 5 best one for all factions, because every faction is so cool and unique. You really have to tailor your units, your gods, and your mythical units roster to suit them. Because for example here, Aeneas does have access to the archer skirmish hero, however he doesn't have access to the defender. So far, heroes is maybe an exception. I personally prefer the fighter champion because I want to try and snipe the enemy lords as quickly as possible. Warlord, if you're a little bit more passive, just giving overall morale buffs might be good. And if you're quite a defensive player, maybe you like to roleplay. So sit back and relax. Maybe the defender is your sort of thing. But the thing is, Archer's quite good if you play as Paris, because he's got a good lot of Archer buffs. So let's have a look at his unique units. So he's got Denan chargers, two-handed club infantry. Don't know if I like the look of those overly too much. Denan rabble as well. Fearless swordsman. I quite like the look of those. And Dardanian defenders. They look quite cool. And some Denan mobs. So let's have a look at the backstory for Aeneas, because he's got a really cool backstory. So here we go. The mighty warrior Aeneas was the son of the love goddess Aphrodite. So he is a son of a goddess. He is the first cousin of Priam and second only to Hector in military prowess among the allies of Troy. According to the Iliad, when Aeneas fled certain death in battle, the gods themselves interceded to spare his life. As the lord of fertility and prosperity in Dardania, he fought with honor, dignity, commanding the vast numbers of conscripts at his disposal to overwhelm his enemies on the battlefield. The the gods of Olympus may have had greater destiny in mind when they decided to favour the Dardanian ruler. And this is the Roman bit as we go in. So in the Aeneid, Virgil claims that the king and his men fled west after the Trojan War, settling in Italy, where they became the progenitor of the Roman people. Okay. Hadn't said that word in quite a while. Aeneas himself was believed to be the ancestor of Romulus and Remus, the legendary founders of Rome. Because after Troy got sacked, he threw his father on his back. He went around sailing for a little bit. He managed to run into Dido of Carthage, who tried to marry him and force him. She tried to force marry him in this wet, dark cave in Carthage somewhere. And he was like, "No, stop that. I'm going to Rome." And then he went and founded the city of Rome. So I guess in this alternative timeline, why can't we start the Roman Empire in Greece? Why can't we sort of birth the Republic, birth the Empire here? That's what I'm sort of going to play for this campaign. Son of Aphrodite, he gets a favour to Aphrodite, +1 per turn, and he also has -10 upkeep for the cost of light infantry units. Alrighty, let's claim our destiny and get stuck in right into it after that preamble was set up.
Are we mere playthings of the gods? Or do we plead divine influence to justify our foolish choices?
He's taken her! He's taken my wife! You've risked the safety of Troy.
Troy is my home now.
You have my oath, brother. She will be returned to you. Brother, I can fight. Go, seek shelter. There'll be plenty of fighting ahead.
There he is.
The wrath of Achaea will descend upon Troy. Paris acted in love, but he has incited war. Whether the walls of Ilios will endure, only the gods can tell.
Aeneas, son of Aphrodite, stands ready to protect his kinsman in Troy, eagerly awaiting his coming destiny.
Paris of Troy must pay!
O great-hearted Aeneas, your cousin Hector is King Priam's eldest son and Troy's greatest warrior. He is well aware of the danger coming from the west.
Brother, your foolish passion has doomed us. Fear not, noble cousins. I stand with you.
Recent incursions from the Aeolians devastated Arisbe. You are now at war with King Merops. Look to the northern bank of the Hellespont. The hostile Chersonesos seek control of this strategically vital peninsula. Beside the sacred springs of Scamandros, your cousin Hector rules wisely in the name of King Priam. His brother Paris rules from a well-built city overlooking the Aegean. In the Western Isles, another of Troy's princes, God-touched Troilos, protects the coast from hostile incursions to aid all seafarers. Secure your holdings, then aid your cousins against the coming Achaean storm.
Okay guys, welcome to the campaign map. Let's get stuck right into the Aeneas Let's Play. Okay, so, we've got some missions issued there. So, this is This video is probably going to come out the day before Troy is released. Now that this is my second playthrough, I'm going to basically do a little bit of a tutorial. I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on some of the mechanics, the buildings, and the units and stuff, and we'll sort of go through and do a little bit more slow and methodical tutorial just in this first video and first sort of battle. As, like I said, I'm a little bit more knowledgeable of the game. The Achilles one, I was just sort of playtesting. I couldn't confirm or sort of deny which were sort of the best strats and units. So, we currently start off with Aeneas here. He has 9 units. Aetolian swordsmen, they look okay. Coastal clubbed fighters, they'll do for now. I do really like the aesthetic of those shields. They look really quite cool, but we do lack a lot of skirmishers in this build. Recruitment-wise, what have we got access to? Rabble, Axemen... some more Axemen there, club. So, no slingers early on. I think Aeneas's build does have a lack of skirmishers, so that's going to have to reflect on how we go into the divine gods and stuff. So we're not going to be able to. We don't want to recruit anyone just yet because we want to try and deal with this army first up. And do we have any missions just yet? No. Okay. Looking at the objectives, Homeric victory is what we want to go down. So we have to do 11 of the epic mission chain. We need to make sure the following factions are destroyed: Mycenae and Sparta. Usually they confederate because they sort of unite as one, but have 300 favour with Aphrodite, Apollo, Ares, Athena, Hera, Poseidon, and Zeus. That's quite a lot. I was only really hovering around about 600. You only really, from what I could remember, that I only had 1 on worshipped and maybe 2 on celebrated, so we're going to have to invest a lot in temples and these hecatombs and prayers and whatnot. Royal decrees wise, we're currently making 1.3k grain per turn, 700, 100 there. So sometimes this can reflect where you want to start and what you want to go down. Probably copper or bronze is probably the best way. I keep on calling it copper, aren't I? Bronze. Okay. So depending what you're low in, you can basically see what resources you want to go down. We would probably go with bronze, which, we've already done, which is quite cool. Well, getting grain and getting the growth is quite good, so we'll go with that. But this is a good way to secure your resources where you can. Influence is quite good as well, along with public order happiness. I do quite like the missile range there. If you want to get siege towers, Trojan siege towers, that's also not too bad of an investment as well. If you want to sort of protect yourselves, you've got weaker units pushing up. Most units in Troy do start with ladders, so you should be able to go up and attack the city gates with impunity. Okay, so Aeneas is strength ranked 5 starting off in the campaign. So Troy is first. The Amazonians are second there. I don't know, are they different Amazonians there? We do start at war with Apios, the crab people, what I'm going to call them, I guess. We might get some military alliances with Paris and Hector. The problem is they're going to be warring with a lot of people, so we might not do that, because sometimes you get weak and drawn into multiple wars. Especially if you don't want to fight a particular faction, it can make your rating to go down quite a bit. Crikey. So where are we sort of naturally progressing in this? I didn't realise you could get Constantinople. Wow, so you could really nearly push all the way up to the Bosphorus here. Forge Constantinople along before. That's what I kind of want to do. I kind of want to make an early Roman, sort of this alternative history. So where's he going to naturally progress? He's got a lot of Trojan people around him to sort of help out. Pushing northwards probably the best. Then you can actually fight Achilles and Odysseus. Eventually Menelaus and Agamemnon will be coming over. It might be not a bad investment to keep 1 full stack once we've got a solid economy permanently protecting Troy, because we don't obviously want that to fall, and we need to defeat our first antagonist. I'm curious what that's going to be. So the divine will mechanic, let's have a look at the gods and how they're going to suit our playstyle, because from what I've noticed so far is that you really need to min-max the gods with your particular character. There's not, for now that I've noticed, that there's any particular really sort of sweaty and fantastic god that helps out like across all characters. So let's start off with Hera, who I actually used in my Achilles campaign, because first of all, early on you start off with a plus 20% missile damage to slingers and a minus 7 recruitment cost for all units in provinces with 50% influence. Now this is actually good for Achilles because he can actually recruit slingers early on. This is not going to work for Aeneas because he can't actually get slingers. So Hera early on is probably not the play. I do quite like the replenishment at the end of the minus to construction. Let's have a look at Zeus. Now Zeus early on starts off with a 20% melee attack for club units and plus 15% to javelins. Now, javelins is quite good because we've actually got javelins in our build, and we've got a little bit of club units, so maybe going down that is not too bad of a play, but you also sort of want to look at the grand picture as well. Minotaur's fantastic towards the end, but the military alliances and defensive packs is probably not what we're going to do, so is it really worth investing so much into Zeus in doing that? So we'll sort of put that on the list, but we'll have a look a little bit more. The Cult of Ares. So +1 local recruitment faction-wide, that's fantastic. And +20, or Ares, however you want to say it, Aeneas, I sort of switch between the two. +20% morale for sword and axe units. Now, this is really quite cool because the chariot build in Troy is quite strong at the moment. So maybe going with Cult of Ares early on is probably the play. We also get an income from raiding and sacking, plus happiness for up to per war. That's okay. Melee attack for swords and axes, and we get the charge stuff. Now, looking at the army, sort of the build for, we want to go for our capital. So looking for the build for Aeneas, it's quite different as well. So he doesn't actually have that much access to archers, so maybe going with chariots is definitely the play, because it wasn't viable with Achilles because we had so much other better stuff. He does have some Aetolian slingers, but it's going to take till tier 3 to get them. He does have skirmishes as well. Okay, so we've just gone through that, and so this is what you sort of want to do. You want to sort of pick and choose the gods. So Ares, I think he could very well early on probably be the best one for Aeneas. Apollo, recruitment ranked for priestesses, they're not too bad. Archers, missile reload, we're not really going to use any of that, so Apollo doesn't really work out either. Athena for spears and defending, I quite like that for Achilles, but he doesn't actually have too many spear units, Aeneas. He's mostly axeman, clubman, and sword. The all heroes unbreakable in battle is quite good. That's what I sort of had him for in the morale. So, okay. Cult of Poseidon, movement, siege holdout time, treasury, food on the coast. That's good. That actually might be okay. More so for like Odysseus, I guess. Cyclopses are quite cool. And what about Mum? Let's have a look at Aphrodite. +10 diplomatic relations with all factions, 200 command effect for guys. Oh, come on, Mum. You could have given us some better quality buffs than that. You're a goddess after all. Okay, the golden apple, growth, happiness, tier 2. Yeah. So I think early on, so I think for Aeneas, Ares is probably going to play. Maxing Ares all the way out there is probably the best for us. So we'll probably focus on that. So that's sort of the best thing. So sometimes this is a bit of a case study for the gods. Depending on your particular faction, your play style will influence what gods are the best, from what I've sort of seen. Okay, Divine Omens. As a leader and warrior, God-born Aeneas were always considered humble and pious. His people could rely on him to seek out the will of the divine and earn the favour of Olympus. Quite cool, Crescent Moon. So available in full turns. So 300 food, 50 bronze, and 20 gold. So we can read the omens. Reading the omens will let us discern the will of the gods. Our priestess will interpret them and tell us how we can earn favour of those who dwell in Olympus. So this is the Divine Omens. This is his unique mechanic. Achilles had the dual mechanic as a replacement for this, going around and conquering and getting rid of the lords. Okay, so let's have a look at the voices. Okay, the miracle workers... the miracle work or a skilled investigator. Aeneas has found a way to learn from those who have crossed the river Styx. While some consider speaking with the dead an insult to the gods, the benefits gained from such forbidden knowledge are undeniable. So we can have a chat to people. There even seems to be a drop-down menu. How many... I can talk to Achilles. Agamemnon. Oh, you can talk with so many people. So where can we talk to Jason? Only once Aeneas controls Jason's homeland can he speak to them. Achilles, Sarpedon, Agamemnon. Imagine Aeneas just chatting with Achilles. That's so cool. So here we go. So the duration lasts for 2 turns, -5 happiness, but we get a buff to recruitment rank and Aurora side for heroes. Plus food, minus happiness, movement range. So there's some really cool buffs here. So yeah, you have to destroy the faction, I think, to like get this. I wonder. I'm curious now if, for example, Paris confederates with Hector. Does he technically be destroyed on the campaign map? Does that mean he's going to be able to commune with? I guess I'm also curious than anything. Okay, well that's now done. Let's get stuck into this first battle. Let's take a quick save, because I've had a pretty big chat about this. We have Aeneas' helm, which is +3 armor and melee defense, and let's get stuck into this. So let's try and fight this one out. 5 units. I don't know why it's so depleted. Maybe there's a reason. It also seems to be quite degraded there. So let's have a look at the field of battle. A little bit of grassy area. So we're just coming up against a warlord. He's a fighter, so he should be right to finish that off. Oh, is he actually... Oh, I can't even see. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's a warlord. Technically. I think he's the second best like physical fighter from what I've seen comparing to Achilles. So light swords, young spears. I might need to go back on that and have a look at that. Slingers, so they're not really, nothing too much. We outnumber them numerically quite heavily. We have 2 units of our swords, 2 clubmen, 2 spears, and then 1 two-handed axe, and then the light skirmishers. So without further ado, let's fight this one on the battlefield and get stuck into them against the crab people, let's say. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for all the fantastic support on the Achilles and the Troy content on the channel. I do plan to do more daily and weekly Troy uploads. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll try and answer them as best I can if you've got any questions about Troy. Okay, so how do we want to do this? So spearmen holding the front line, but we also want some to try and wrap around, I guess. So we'll try and break things up like this. So these guys can be the front line that are basically just going to push up. We'll move Aeneas into the front line as well, and we'll eventually make 2 squadrons here, 2 units to essentially be the flanking units, let's say. We'll move our skirmishers up there to try and hit them as well. Alright, let's have a look at Aeneas. Come on, Aeneas. You need to be facing the camera, at least. There we go. Let's have a look at him on the battlefield. Quite a cool unit. He's got a horn on his head. But here is Aeneas, the father of Rome, the ancestor of Romulus and Remus. So we'll try and swing everyone up here. We'll try and flank you here. We'll go around this way as well. Okay. So what is he technically? A warlord. So he's actually technically a warlord. However, I just thought it was quite deceiving because he's quite a formidable fighter. So technically he's not the same class as Achilles, but he can really hold his own. We're on the battlefield now. It's a lot more favourable to them just due to the ammunition, I suppose. We also have March of Hermes, which gives us a +8 speed and stamina. So if we want to charge, that's probably the play. We'll move up my slingers as well, my javelin rather, and we'll allow Aeneas to try and target their warlord. Just matching this is probably the play. Pivot here. Pivot around there. Try and get our skirmishers to engage it. Now, obviously this is really a lot of foliage and we can't quite see what's going on. If you press spacebar on your keyboard, you can actually see what's going on. So we'll allow my slingers to hit theirs and we'll send Aeneas up, or my javelin technically. We'll try and flank and wrap around with these guys. Now in the woods it does reduce combat effectiveness. So how are they actually going to play this one out? They seem to be pushing up here. Aeneas is now trying to get in combat. We're skirmishing them out where we can. If we can try and just maybe hit them now, we just want to lock them down. And then we'll try and wrap around where we can. Throw everyone... Oh, you nearly got baited into that corner there. Try and swing you around where you can. Allow my skirmishers to hit there. So Aeneas should be fighting their warlord. I'm curious to see how well he does. So they've been caught now. So you try and wrap around here along with you as well. And we'll try and pin them as well. So they're hitting them, that's fine. So just try and go straight behind them. And then we're going to charge in. Alright, charge in and around the back. Yeah, if we can sort of wrap around there might be the play. So you focus on them, you phase out these blokes, and you go to the top of those. Aeneas is still fighting the general. Trying to surround them is still the best play. Actually, you're not going to be able to get around there in time, so maybe just hold here. You might be able to get with them. That's a shame, they just got dealt with. Okay, you try and hit these light swordsmen completely here now. Aeneas is sort of holding his own with that. Okay, now they've routed, which is cool. And everyone's just trying to focus on this. Hit these guys that are routing, I guess. You focus on this. And now that they're routing, you go back to those slingers. Okay, so we had one unit rout, that's fine. The heavies seem to be holding their own more so than anything. Yeah, so let's just get those guys to focus on them. Give chase to those slingers. You're still focusing on them. Yeah, they've now broken, so you go back this way. Alright, just try and speed things up. We've won here today. Only 3 units remain. We have them completely surrounded here. And I think they just broke. Yeah, they did. They've now come back. So focus on them. They're now broken. Aeneas is still holding out against their warlord, so it's more or less a tie, isn't it? They're dealing with them. Continue to make sure those slingers get dealt with, and my skirmishers are just trying to finish off these guys here. There's even more overlays if you want to try and tailor that.
The foe has sighted your hidden units.
If you want. So these guys are still running around those. Yeah, skirmish is a little bit knackered. Okay, so now what we want to do is we actually don't want to run down the enemy general because we want to try and get another battle. This is a tactic that they've come back in. We want to just focus on the units. That it's useful in Warhammer 2 because you can grind experience with 2 battles. If the enemy lord lives, he does run back to another location and you get more experience. So we're going to try and let him live and we'll see if we can get it to work. We're going to try and continue to speed things up as I want to try and run down as many of the enemy combatants as we can to build up our chevrons. Okay, so you can go with that. Yeah, so we'll let him go. And if we destroy his army enough, he could very well die anyway. So we'll let him live, because if we want to fight 2 battles, we get double the experience. That for like randomly generated heroes, that's usually the rule of thumb. If they're epic heroes like Aeneas, Hector, Aeneas, or Achilles, Agamemnon, you're actually better off trying to kill them and mortally wound them, as you do get unique buffs for them. So a decisive victory. Let's end that battle there. So we lost 177, which isn't too bad, even though one of our guys did rout, and we killed 583. Looking at the casualties sustained and inflicted, the 200 axemen hitting that unit from behind did probably the best, and the skirmishers didn't do too bad either. So a decisive victory, we get the 500 experience. If we can have another battle, we get another 500 experience, and we also get food up on top of that. So we can take on the replenishment. The morale is what we're not going to necessarily need, so I think we'll just take on the replenishment. So will he escape? No, we actually defeated him full on in battle there. Okay, that's quite cool. And did we get anything unique? He has gone up in stats. So with the Blood of Hercules and Warning, so basically how this works is it actually says, if you can see here in brackets, it says it's what it's about. So if you really can't be bothered like reading the entire blurbs on this sort of stuff, I sometimes just go with this if you just get bogged down with so many characters and stuff. So here we go. The Blood of Hercules gives you speed, and obviously if you go with the cooldown variant, their radius, defense. So we're going to go with the Blood of Hercules, as it gives us a 2.5% to our hero's buff, and I'm probably going to go with cooldown rather than speed. Equipment wise as well, we haven't got anything just yet. Okay, so looking at our province in Dardania, so the crabby boys to the north have that, and there seems to be an unoccupied settlement here. I don't know why that is. It can be a little bit risky doing this, but I think we'll be okay, seeing as we destroyed destroyed their army. So we do lose 300 food, 200 wood, and a bit of stone. And the most important thing is we nearly lose 1,000 soldiers trying to colonize this. So we do expose ourselves slightly here. Let's look at our recruitment again. So armor-wise, that's what we probably want to sort by. Why do the coastal axes, even though they're naked, have more armor? More or less a little bit deceiving. We'll go with 3 because we need more skirmishes than anything, I think, rather than getting 2 axes. But that is the first turn done. Okay, well, let's continue on. We're in a really good start. So we'll build a forest village in Dardania. And we'll look to push upon Piteus, I believe. So looking at the building change, it does, yeah, it's the thing is because we excel in having low to cheap inexpensible units. To get the high quality ones, which I prefer, it's going to take quite a bit of investment. We're going to go down Ares. It's kind of cool that you get those renowned swordsmen as a bit of a bonus investing all the way down there, because you guys all know that Aeneas is all about the gods. Tier 5 Aeneas is chosen and some Aphrodite buffs as well. We'll eventually try and get some priestesses in as well. And I think we'll go with a stone miners tent for the resource there. That's probably the second best one. The smelter is good for +5 resources in this province. If you've got like 2 normal settlements that win with like 1 resource, and it's only a limited amount. The Stonemason Lodge isn't too bad early on, but you can tend to forget it because it is quite a huge 70% minus to growth. So once we get a little bit of wood back in, we'll go through the first 2, and then if we get enough space, we could go for the very end one. So that's just my opinion on the resource building chain as well. Diplomacy wise, we're still at war with the crabby people.
I am.
Lycia with Sarpedon. I think, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who we sort of prioritize. Probably getting a confederation with either Hector or Paris is probably the play. I think Sarpedon's just too far away. Troilos here as well. Let's try and get a negotiation pact with them, a non-aggression pact. So can we get anything? So only 70 wood from them, so it's not overly too crazy. At the moment, we only can afford 1 army. We'll eventually get some more, and I'm going to think about renaming them Romulus and Remus. How about that? Romulus and Remus helping out Aeneas once we get generals in to help us. So we've got Amazonians, like a horde faction there. Oh, I didn't realize there were horde factions in Troy. Anyone else that sort of wants any negotiations? No. Alright. Well, let's end the first turn. So, please do take into consideration as well, I'm still using an early access build of Troy, A Total War Saga, and everything's subject to change. Go check out the Epic Store page if you guys would like to pick up Troy for free. It will be available on the 13th of August. Okay, so first for Conquest. And we now have 11 units. So to take the entire province of Dardania, we need Piteus. So what have we got in and around us? Some Trojans to our left here. We'll move along the coast, getting that replenishment, and we'll sit at the border here, getting some fresh recruits. 5 units in there. You never know, they might sort of come out and hit us. So, getting 1 javelinman is probably the play. I don't mind these coastal axes to start off with. They seem to have better armor, but only time will tell how they perform in battle. We'll go with the Cult of Ares as well, because we're going to be using swordsmen, medium to heavies, looking at Aeneas's unit build. So, getting the Ares buff. Eventually, once we build up our kingdom a bit, we'll go with getting chariots and stuff. But you guys all know Aeneas is all about the sword and shield. So, any of these dead people we can now talk with. Commune with Dardanus might be the better play. 20% construction with a 5% to happiness. Once we build up a bit, this won't actually be too bad. The favour to the gods is a little bit bad. But let's get the growth buff and let's talk to the father of our people. Aeneas leaves to King Dardanus. His wisdom shall wholly help the sailors and the farmers. So we instantly get 400 food. And we get a nice little buff there. And we finished a mission as well. Gods-wise, we haven't really built anyone up yet. I want to go with Ares, like I've been saying, because you get the +1 recruitment. And we can actually invoke a Hecatomb here, just to get the +50, because then we can get minus 20% morale for them. And we'll get the buffs eventually as well. Oh, it actually says on the left here my buffs and stuff that I'm using, which is quite cool. So a Hecatomb has been deployed for Ares. We still don't have enough wood yet to put that investment in, and we'll chuck a quick save and win the turn again, because you never know, we could very well get intercepted here as we're posturing and just sitting out on the border. Muster the troops, plus 300 food. Thriving settlement, yeah, because we have 14 units at our disposal now. 2 mediums, 2 clubs, and then a lot of slingers, 2 axemen, 2 spears, 1 two-handed. We just need a little bit more before I want to try and push against Pythios. And we do have an extra recruitment slot now that we've invoked the Cult of Ares. I think, just looking at these 3 units, I want to test out the Coastal Axe Fighters. They do have more armor, and they're a bit cheaper compared to the other armored axemen, but we'll just need to see how they perform in battlefield. Those axes, the other ones, could be more viable in the long term. We'll just have to see. Looking at this, I think going with a stoneworker's hut is probably the best there. Or maybe we're better off securing our wood, because then we can build up further rather than the stone. Yeah, because we still need to secure the grain to the north, so we'll upgrade the wood, deposit and work on them. Okay, so we're nearly at a full stack. Yeah, we've taken a little bit of replenishment, but let's now push in. So there's 8 units outside and then the garrison in. Alrighty, let's chuck a quick save and then we'll fight this one on the battlefield. So looking at Aeneas' army build, he has 2 units of medium spears, 2 clubbed, then we've got 6 of the coastal guard, 2 spears, 1 two-handed axeman, and 4 units of skirmishers. We'll upgrade our resource buildings as well where we can. Hey, and yeah, you are defending against Aphrodite. Okay. Let's try and finish them out. So let me know in the comments where you'd like me to expand and conquer. Aeneas has a couple of interesting ways where he can sort of go. So we start in Asia Minor, of course. We can push all the way up to the Bosphorus towards what was Constantinople. It's probably not a bad idea to envelop and push through Macedonia, as Odysseus and Achilles will eventually be up that way. I don't particularly want to betray my Trojan allies, as I want to try and confederate with the epic lords. Now, I actually did a little bit of research that even though it looks like he's a warlord, Aeneas, he is technically an epic fighter. So him and Achilles are classed as the same, even though the icon looks a little bit different. But there are the swordsmen. We're going to be using them a lot for this series, and then we'll eventually get like chariots and stuff into the build. Also, in the Ares building tree, they do have access to some of the best and special unique units. The Spartoi, I believe, they're 2-handed spearmen. They kind of look like immortals from 300. So it's going to be quite a long time before we get 500-600 cult worship. But that's something to look forward to. So the first army here, we'll try and just rush them as quickly as possible, because we're a united force. Hopefully, if we can get there quick enough, we can stop them uniting with the 2. Because it's a 50-50, we definitely outnumber this first host. So we're going to give chase, try and close the distance, lock into combat, and we'll try and wrap around where we can. But this is going to be a close one. So we'll send in Aeneas straight at the fighter. Stats-wise, from what I've seen, Aeneas is the second best duelist and epic fighter that Troy, A Total War Saga has to offer. Because by the time this video comes out, I have taken Troy and done 100 turns in my Achilles campaign. I do recommend that if you want to see more of the end tier stuff and see the Denan side of the tree. Okay, my skirmishers are moving up here, but we don't want them to get caught. So we're wrapping around on the right side, which is good, but they are going to have the high ground advantage and a little bit more of a charge boost running down the hill. We'll get all my axemen to pick individual units where they can. Some of them are intertwining themselves between the skirmishers quite well. So we'll try and wrap around here where we can. But this is going to be a close one. This is a really big test. A 50-50, and we're testing out Aeneas' army build. Then we can fine-tune it from here, because at the end of the day, although this is my second playthrough of Troy, I've learned a lot since my first time. I've been able to slow things down, analyze, and go through what I like and don't like about the units. This is still my first Aeneas campaign. So already, the coastal axemen are routing, and I really don't like the look of that. There's still 100 in there, and they're routing. They shouldn't be running away from that. Maybe their morale's slightly low. Because personally, I don't like cheap lots of armies. And especially in Troy and in Warhammer, the game sort of incentivizes you not to do this. And have heaps of armies everywhere. It's not like, obviously, Medieval 2. Empire and Rome were in the earlier games where you can move stuff about. But already, just looking at my army build, my medium swords are the ones that are doing okay. However, the coastal axemen are massively underperforming. I really don't like the look of that. Aeneas potentially killing the enemy lord might be able to swing the battle back in our favour, but it's going to be a close one here. The professional medium swordsman and the spearmen are what's going to carry us in this fight. So stay tuned for daily Troy content on the channel. I'm going to be uploading midnight time Australia. So, I'm sorry Aussies, my fellow brethren. You have to wait quite late, but you know, we live in upside down. We live in the upside down. We live on the other side of the world, so my apologies. But I think like only 5 or 10% of my audience is actually Australian. Most of my audience is American with a huge percentage. And it's mostly, I think American's like 40%. I think it's crazy. While the UK is second with like 20, and then obviously the surrounding European countries have a huge piece of the pie. Germans, Poles, Irish, and the Dutch are all up there. So, Guten Tag, mein Freunds. That's just stereotyping everyone. I think everyone understood that. Yeah, that's right. I don't know how to say hello in any other languages. Bonjour. Je m'appelle Simpzy. I learned that when I was 14, and that's about all I remember. Okay, so everyone seems to not being able to hold. Now with the enemy reinforcements in, we just have to manually click to redeploy everyone because they keep on running away. Aeneas has nearly lost half of his health. Oh good, but he's now running. Swing around and deal with the other lord. Things can get a little bit difficult when there's 2 to 3 enemy combatants. That can really change the tide in a fight in Troy. So from what I've seen, I haven't actually seen or heard any feedback from other content creators. Maybe you guys who watch a lot more of them, let me know. What's everyone else's opinion on the classes? I personally seem to be using fighters a lot more because they seem to be working quite well. They seem to be like not unworking. So I haven't really delved into the archer warlord or defender category. The only time I did move into that was with Paris, as he had access to some of the best, unique, and elite archer units. So everyone's just fragmenting everywhere. This is such an unorthodox and all over the place battle. It's really phased into guerrilla warfare. Every man's for himself, surrounding and trying to focus off the enemy. So they've now completely shattered. They're just not running away. Because the thing is with Troy, they run away, but then the skull bones mean they've completely routed. So sometimes it's a little bit deceiving. Man, oh man, we might have bit off a little bit more than what I could chew in this fight. But Aeneas seems to be doing tremendously well against the two enemy lords. You got to give it to him. Aeneas, the father of Rome, arguably the first Roman, depending on who you ask. But it's kind of interesting, the story of how it came up in the Roman era, because at that stage of the Roman Empire, they sort of blended Roman and Greek antiquity stories together, and they were treated very much as the same. They sort of looked and sort of inspired each other in literature and culture in that point. But yeah, the story of Aeneas is an interesting one. They wanted to be able to harken back, like the Greeks had the epic stories of the Iliad and the Odyssey, and the Romans at the time with Virgil when he wrote his Aeneid, they wanted to look back on and have their own ancestral stories. So they thought, why not? Let's just chuck Aeneas. We'll link ourselves to the Trojans. Aeneas, where he fled Troy after its destruction. Chucking his father on his back. I believe he left his wife, and no, don't worry about her, just make sure the father of the house is saved. He went on his merry way. Oh, we've only just somehow won that there. Good, we want to speed things up and wrap up as many of them as possible. Oh, that was way too close for my liking. We must have got the army loss penalty just at the end. We went around sailing, met Dido with Carthage, who was... Let's just say Dido of Carthage was a crazy woman, just to say the least. Love sickened, from what I can remember in my history class, and tried to force marriage Aeneas, and he was not all down to that because the gods want him to go on and fulfill his destiny, because without him the Roman Empire wouldn't have existed, because he is like the 8th or like 10 times great-grandfather of Romulus and Remus, supposedly. Those two being suckled by the wolf mother, being pups of the wolf, you could say. But yeah, I thought in this series, why not, in this alternative timeline, if Aeneas can establish himself, defend Troy, why can't he start the Roman Empire in Greece? Imagine if it actually did like that. Like, imagine like an alternative history, like seeing that in a time lapse. What was if the Roman Empire started in Greece? Obviously expanded out through Carthage into Cisalpine Gaul, and then it went into Gaul and Iberia, Britain, and just went everywhere, obviously forming the Roman Empire. I wonder if it started in Greece, what problems they would have had to deal with. We've managed to win there, but looking at the stats, we lost 1.3k, they lost 1k and 700. Good. I'm happy that they came out against us. Fighting that in a siege would have been a tough one. Yeah, like dealing with the barbarians to the north. Or maybe it would have just been like more or less with Alexander. Essentially pushing eastward more than anything. But we'll take on the replenishment. There's still 5 or so units inside. Okay, maximum strength, 500 food once we get 20 units. And we're going to be able to secure the crucial grain supply. Luckily with Aeneas, we start off with stone and wood. Wood have been found to get quite easily in the game, but stone can be tricky and landlocked at times. So now that we've won, we'll auto-resolve this. Aeneas seems to be absolutely ruthless in those animations. Oh, look how many we lost! One thing I do note, that the auto-resolve is brutal in Troy Total War. I haven't tested it if you play on like easy or anything, or like normal, how much of a difference it is. It might not be, but yeah, especially on very hard, or veteran that it's called now, it's incredibly harsh. So Aeneas has now gone up in stats. He hasn't got any more equipment. So let's go with... Do we just go with Blood of Hercules, or do we start off with going something else? Maybe melee. Yeah, let's go with Disciplined of Ares. If you're unsure of what to do with your build, just specify it to your preferences. And in the brackets, it does say speed or melee and whatnot. I do recommend that. Okay, so we're going to do a sacrifice here. So we need to capture 300 captives, 240, and we get 60 plus with Aphrodite. Raid the following settlement. Okay, so raid their capital of Percot. Raise or sack Percot as well. So this is going to allow us to get those buffs that are a part of our Homeric victory conditions with Aeneas, which is quite cool. Does cost a bit though. Who's this? Dinema, I guess. Okay, so because we lost a lot of units in quite quick succession, and we're now at war, factions can seem to gang up on you a bit, which is a bit of a shame. So Percot, we've managed to skip a little bit ahead, replenish and repair, and we're ready to push against the capital now with a full stack with Aeneas. We're going to go with the growth buff there, and then eventually get wood and gold. Now, with the securing of grain, we're making 1,000 per turn. We probably can look to get an additional commander in, and I want him to be a fighter. Hovering over here, you can see what traits you can get, which can, look, there's not one that suits all, but you're better off specifying how you're going to use your guys, and you can rename them, and I think we'll call him Romulus after Remus. There's a what's it called in an alternative timeline if Remus survived and wasn't killed? What was Rome called? I can't even remember. Every time I think it say Romulus, I think of Star Trek. The Romulans are coming. They've turned their cloaks off. Okay, but I don't know if he looks like most of a... I don't know if he looks mostly like a Romulus with a beard and ant antennas. But, yeah. It's a kind of a shame that there isn't a family tree in Troy. Like, Aeneas can't go on and have epic future children. I don't know if anyone's brought that up, but that was never a thing in Warhammer. It was in 3 Kingdoms, however, but we're going to have adopted generals, which kind of fits with the Roman ethos that we're sort of going for here in the Bronze Age. Okay, well, let's try and siege out the capital of Percot, or Percoti, and see if they come out and attack us. Okay, so... I only just caught the banner here, but we got attacked by the other faction that declared war upon me. No, that's alright. I guess we'll try and go at it again. There was no way we would have won that. That's a shame. So we'll try and go for round 2, I guess. We might very well need to get those reinforcements with Romulus to come up. We've only got 4 skirmishers, so coming further up here to help is probably the play. We'll raid the territory as it's a part of our victory conditions, and we'll try and get some more additional units. No, I don't want to trade. What? Why did their army move out? Okay. And then we just got some other objectives here. Oh, I actually don't think I was meant to raid that. I think it was another one. I think it was actually the one over. Do anyone want peace? Nah. Well, that's annoying. Yeah, 300 captives. Raid the following region. Yeah, it's the one over. I thought the victory condition would have been done. 7 units inside. Well, we'll get out of raiding stance. It probably annoyed them more than anything. Okay, so now it's more of a 50-50. And if I can continue this siege and I'll bring up Romulus, I'll treat Romulus the exact same as I treated Ajax in the Achilles campaign. I want him to be a professional fighter. Yeah, wait, that was on... Okay. Now we can take this. That is so strange that they left their capital open to be able to do that. But we've managed to finish them off here. Oh, 1 coastal club fighters were lost in a relatively easy auto resolve. Well, let's occupy this. I guess they've fled further back. We do have access to sirens now in their capital. I don't particularly like sirens, more so when multiplayer launches a couple months after Troy. I could definitely see it being potent on the battlefield in that department. Like, it's a really good multiplayer unit. But in the campaign, I tend to either go through top tier giants or centaurs or the lower tier harpies. But guys, unfortunately on that note, it's time to wind things down here. Thank you very much for watching episode 1 of my Troy, A Total War Saga Aeneas campaign. This is episode 1. Got to say a huge thank you to the Creative Assembly, of course, for sending me a free early access code of Troy and making this Let's Play possible. So let me know in the comments, would you like me to expand and conquer? We could push up north towards the Bosphorus, maybe go down and try and head towards Achilles. We're going to be going for a Homeric victory condition in this campaign, so stay tuned for hour-long episodes coming out daily. Troy is still taking over the channel and uploads over the next couple of days and weeks, but I will return to my other Total War campaigns that I've had to put on hiatus and hold. But I'm really enjoying Troy, and you guys seem to doing as well. So if we keep up the support, I'll do more Troy uploads. So stay tuned for tomorrow's episode when we sort of try and finish and secure off our province, and we might look to further expand and take out neighbouring kingdoms. Maybe we should go up towards the Bosphorus. Maybe we should sort of build Constantinople a long time earlier. Like, even throughout the Roman era, before it was built up in the Eastern Roman Empire and made its capital, wasn't it just like little scattered fishing villages over there? Yeah, maybe we just need to rock up and let the Thracians know that the Romans are coming in the Bronze Age. But anyway, guys, much love from Australia. Take it easy. Unfortunately, guys, it is time to end the video here. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know in the comment section down below your feedback for the series, and if you'd like to see more, that's the best way to ensure more content. Leave a dislike if you're not enjoying the series. Check out my social media links if you want to stay connected with me. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all in the description below. Patreon and merchandise link in the description below, along with the Steam group. Come and join the community on Steam. And on that note, unfortunately, I have to end the video here. Thank you very much for watching once again. Make sure to take care of yourselves. Go out and have a fantastic rest of your day. My name has been Simpzy. Goodbye.